Hello. This is another episode of Living with Cancer. And today we're going to talk about chemo brain. Chemo brain is real. You can look it up. And considering what chemotherapy is, it's not surprising that it would affect the brain in some ways. What's chemo brain like? Well, I guess it's like the early onset of Alzheimer's or dementia. I have it. I don't like it. It's not a showstopper now, but it's very frustrating. What are examples of chemo brain? Well, let's refer to the official medical professionals on just some of the symptoms of chemo brain. Forgetting things that usually you have no trouble remembering, so memory lapses. I just had one 10 seconds ago. Trouble concentrating, can't focus on what I'm doing, have a short attention span, may easily space out. Well, if you've watched my videos over the past couple of months, sorry by the way, that does happen. Trouble remembering details like names, dates, and sometimes larger events. Trouble multitasking, answering phone while cooking, losing track of one task while doing another. Trouble learning new things, taking longer to finish things because we're disorganised, slower thinking and slower processing. And trouble remembering words or finishing sentences. Let's just get all the scientific and medical stuff out of the way. What things can cause chemo brain? Well, obviously chemotherapy. The cancer itself, for example, brain tumours. I bloody touch wood, I don't have any of those. Other drugs as part of the treatment, other conditions and illnesses or high blood pressure, having other symptoms like tiredness, pain and sleep problems. I'll come to that if I remember. Emotional distress such as depression or anxiety, older age, being weak or frail, surgery, infection, hormone changes, being postmenopausal, nutritional deficiencies, or using alcohol and other substances that can change your mental state. They're the top ones, certainly not the definitive list. There are other contributing factors to chemo brain. Chemotherapy does kill brain cells, by the way, so I think that's probably, in my case, is what it is. Although I never really had a very good memory. I could remember things related to my job. I had no problem recalling those. Useless information from jobs I'd had like 10 years back, I could still recall information. Not so much now, but anything short term, or being involved in an event or something that happened 2 or 3 months ago, or I'd said something, or I'd had a conversation with somebody, generally I did not retain that information, no matter how important it might have been at the time. So I didn't really start off in the best possible situation, and I think it's just got worse and worse. As I said, and I'm not joking, you can watch the videos back on my channel, some of them, and you will see me just lock up, blue screen of death, reboot. All takes place in about 3 to 4 seconds because my brain just locks up. I just whatever train of thought I was on, I just derail. what can you do to help? Well, you can go through cognitive rehabilitation. I would imagine that this is something you do when it is really quite serious. Exercise, light exercise. Don't go down, I don't mean pumping iron down the gym, I mean just like walking. The examples they give are like gardening, caring for pets, walking can all improve your attention and concentration levels. And also meditation. So there are ways of improving a situation, which is good. The fact that it is very frustrating. For an example, there is obviously nurses. I'm very lucky in that sense, who attend to me at home, and they work on a rota, but generally I have 2 or 3 that are regulars. And it was last week some point where my regular nurse turned up at the door. I opened the door, I looked at her, and for the life of me I couldn't work out who she was or why she was at my front door, even though she was dressed in a nurse's uniform, holding a box of medical kit that I would obviously recognise as being PICC line care, or just general care for someone. So that worried me. So my partner's now going to say to the nurses and other people who regularly call at the front door, if I answer it and I look confused, just say your name and I'll remember. That should work. That should actually work, because I can still make the association between names and people, who they are, why they're knocking at the door. What I've got a breakdown in is being able to recognise them, which is even hard because the nurses all wear masks. But other people, when they knock at the door, looking at their face and then trying to tie that to why they would knock at the door. There's neighbours that pop round, knock at the door. I see them most days, speak to them most days, but there are days when I will just blank them because I don't know who they are. I just genuinely have forgotten who they are. It can be very frustrating. It mentioned in the list there about possible things that can antagonise it, and no sleep. Well, if you have an ileostomy and you're waking up 3 times in the night to check whether the ileostomy needs emptying, the bag needs emptying, for me to get back to sleep, it can be quite an arduous task. It's not a case of just sometimes it is a case of me just getting up and doing what I need to do in the bathroom, then getting back into bed, and sometimes I'll just fall straight back to sleep. But the majority of the time I don't. I'm lying awake. So let's say I'm doing my 3:30 in the morning change or check. I've got up, I've got back into bed. I might not fall asleep again till around about 5 o'clock, which is ironic because half an hour later my third alarm goes off at 5:30 to make sure that the bag isn't about to explode. So I do have factors in my life which could be contributing to the chemo brain. It is very frustrating, but it's something you learn to live with. It's certainly, I'm not saying I'm becoming short-tempered. I would say that I become very frustrated with myself. All that frustration is turned inward, and I'm sort of querying myself, being, why are you so stupid? Why are you so thick? When really it's chemo brain, and it's a documented side effect. The diagnosis is there, and the ways to treat it are there as well. So it is real. It's not just something that cancer patients make up. just so they can be a little bit ditzy for a day or a couple of days. It's not. It's real. I speak to the nurses here at home or in the daycare centre. They're very familiar with it, especially obviously in the daycare centre. They're very familiar with it and the effects it can have. The other thing that I think chemo brain contributes to is the ability to rectify yourself if you fall. Now, I know that sounds completely bizarre, and it is, I suppose. But I've fallen, and I can think of two instances when I was getting out the bath or the shower, and I fell, and I couldn't get myself back up. And there was the other time when I fell down the stairs, and I was just kind of obviously propped up against the front door, and there was a taxi coming to pick me up to take me somewhere, and apparently I'd been talking to the taxi driver through the door until my partner turned up and was able to open the door, but I couldn't rectify myself. I couldn't pull myself up or go through the thought processes of, right, hang on, what do I need to do to get back on my feet? I lacked that, and that really worried me. I've had falls since then, and I've been okay. I've been able to work out what I need to do. It's strange, isn't it? Because I'm sure from people looking at this going, well, you fell down, just get yourself back up again. Yeah, I'd love to. And I know it's here. I know I can do it. But you lose that, I don't know, the logistics of doing it. It's like some people will kind of scoff when I say, well, when I got out of hospital, I had to spend when I was in hospital before I could leave, I had to spend 2 weeks with physiotherapy learning how to walk again. Now, me looking back at that, I'm thinking, what? Learn how to walk again? You walked since you were, I don't know, knee-high to a grasshopper. But it's true, you forget how to walk. And obviously if you've been in bed for, I think it was 8 weeks, between the wards and critical care I was in, your muscles waste, so you don't have the strength that you once had. But it's forgetting. It's basically forgetting how to walk. And it's the same case here. I forget how to rectify myself if I'm lying on the floor. I just don't have the thought process to be able to say, right, well, I need to prop myself up on my arms, get my knee underneath me, or whatever the situation may need from me to get back on my feet. If you have chemo brain, or you're showing symptoms of it, don't worry. Don't worry, because, as I said, it's recognisable and it's treatable. I really do need to get out and do more walking, obviously when the weather permits. But if you do have it, then don't worry about it. Just let your GP know. Obviously, if you're lucky like me, very lucky like me, and have an army of nurses looking after you, they obviously need to be aware of it, and any deterioration in it, you do need to keep that report going. I also tell my partner as well. She asks me each morning, is there anything I need to know? And what she means by that is there any symptoms? So she's aware of it. So if anything does happen to me, she can say, well, this morning he told me this, and this. Because if we're in the situation where it's that serious, I'm unlikely to be able to communicate or communicate effectively. Does it sorry, excuse me. Does it last forever? Potentially. Like all side effects from chemotherapy, some may stay. Okay, I think that just about covers all I wanted to say. I wanted to mention this and just bring my own personal perspective to it, but what I didn't want to do is scare anybody or make anybody feel that it's a wretched situation, because it's not. There are things that can be done to help you. There are things that I do to help myself. And by doing these small things, you can gauge, if you remember, you can gauge just how the changes are happening in you. So, going for a short walk, 5-10 minutes, you feel like you've got a little bit more energy, clears the mind a bit, things become a little bit clearer to work through. I work in computers, and many months ago I was trying to work out about a DLL file, something that in my job I would have done in 30 seconds took me about 2 weeks. So get the idea of just how influential chemo brain can be on just cognitive thought or muscle memory in that sense, because it kind of robs you of it. Alright, okay. So, living with cancer, chemo brain, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. I do hope that it helps you in some way. There are resources online for chemo brain. I will put those links in the Substack. And if you are fighting cancer, fight hard, fight long, fight well. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.